The hidden values in rankings. A weekly dashboard turns into a verdict. One number sits beside your name, and suddenly meetings get shorter, approvals get harder, and your work is treated like a risk instead of a contribution. When a system ranks people or outputs, it is not merely reporting performance, it is encoding a set of values about what counts, what can be ignored, and who deserves access. The ranking looks neutral because it is expressed as a score, but its real impact is relational. It reorganizes attention, trust, and opportunity around whatever the system can measure reliably. And what it cannot measure becomes extra, even when it holds the work together. A score is attractive because it travels. It can move from team to team, from one meeting to the next, from one spreadsheet column to another, without needing the story behind it. Portability is the promise. Fewer explanations, faster decisions, easier comparisons. But comparability always comes with a cost. It requires compression. It reduces many kinds of effort into a single proxy, and that proxy starts to stand in for the person. So the claim is simple and concrete. The moment we accept rankings as the language of reality, we accept the values of the proxy as the values of the community. Ranking systems are built to solve a practical problem: limited time and limited attention. A manager cannot read every document, listen to every call, or watch every interaction. That is an explicit constraint. So the system offers a shortcut. Track what is easy to count: tickets closed, response time, errors, sales, time online, customer ratings, and convert it into a score. Here is the first mechanism. Once the score exists, it becomes a target. People who control budgets, promotions, and visibility benefit from the speed and legibility of ranking. They can claim consistency, reduce debate in meetings, and scale decisions across many people. The system also benefits those whose work naturally produces the measured outputs, work that is discrete, frequent, and attributable. The costs fall elsewhere, on people doing maintenance, care, coordination, and risk prevention, work that is real but less legible. Their contribution becomes a rounding error. The second mechanism is a feedback loop. A high score earns more access, better assignments, faster approvals, more patience when something goes wrong. That access makes it easier to maintain a high score. A low score triggers more scrutiny, extra checklists, slower approvals, fewer chances to attempt difficult work. That constraint makes it harder to improve the score. The ranking becomes self-confirming, not because people are fixed, but because the system redistributes opportunity. Then comes the trade-off: accuracy versus efficiency. To rank at scale, the system must use proxies. Proxies are cheaper than understanding, but they also erase context. Differences in tools, starting conditions, mentorship, task difficulty, and hidden labor. The system gains speed and loses truth. And because the result is numerical, it carries the authority of math while quietly reflecting human choices about what to count. Notice what is being optimized. A ranking system tends to optimize for predictability and control, because those are the needs of the decision maker. That is not a moral failure. It is an incentive. If a leader is rewarded for consistency and throughput, they will prefer measures that produce stable ordering. If a platform is rewarded for engagement, it will rank outputs that keep attention captured. The system selects behaviors that feed the metric. Over time, this shapes identity. People learn what the system recognizes. They shift effort toward what is scored, away from what is merely valuable. Some learn to perform the metric, fragmenting work into countable pieces, avoiding hard cases that might lower their average, choosing safe outputs over meaningful ones. Others become invisible. The hierarchy is not only in who is ranked higher, it is in which kinds of work are allowed to matter. Name the cost, not just the benefit. The benefit is portability and comparison. The cost is the creation of an invisible ladder that determines who receives trust, who receives constraint, and whose labor becomes uncredited infrastructure. When a system ranks people, it assigns dignity by proxy. Dignity becomes conditional on legibility. Agency becomes conditional on compliance with the scoring logic. Responsibility becomes conditional on what the metric can detect. This is how measurement quietly rewrites relationships. A colleague becomes a top performer or a risk, not through direct knowledge but through a number that travels faster than a conversation. Attention follows the number. Managers discuss scores, not circumstances. Peers compete for the same visible wins. People hide errors rather than share them early. Trust is displaced from human judgment to system output, because system output feels safer to cite. And yet responsibility does not disappear. It moves. The designer of the metric claims neutrality. The system is just reporting. The user of the metric claims constraint. I have to follow the dashboard. The person being ranked bears the lived consequences: reduced access, increased monitoring, narrowed options. Responsibility is distributed, not dissolved. A ranking always carries an implicit story about what a person is for. Is their role to produce volume, reduce risk, preserve relationships, or create novelty? If the system cannot see those aims, it cannot honor them. What a system ignores becomes an externality, borne by someone's time, someone's stress, someone's stalled career, someone's quiet withdrawal. So the encoded values are not abstract. They show up as who gets interrupted, who gets believed, who gets second chances, and who is asked to prove themselves again and again. Notice what your scoring systems make easy to say in meetings, and what they make hard to say. Consider which kinds of labor become visible only when they fail, and therefore receive attention only as blame. Name the proxy you are living under, the number that stands in for a person, the chart that stands in for a relationship, the ranking that stands in for understanding. Notice where the system grants agency, and where it replaces agency with compliance. Consider the constraint it introduces: extra approvals, constant monitoring, forced comparison. Name who benefits from the ranking's clarity, and who bears the cost of its compression. This is reflection as a practice, looking at what the system permits, what it constrains, and what it ignores, and seeing the values already at work. A score can summarize a moment, but it cannot hold a life. Keep responsibility close to the human consequences, without blame.